Have you ever wondered, what if I could time travel to the future? Well, I'm going to take you on a little trip to the future. I'm going to set the time dial to 1 year from now. We're all back in this room. We're all wearing the same things. It's a little weird. Just go with it. And I want you to think to yourself 3 things that you've accomplished in this past year. Now remember, we're 1 year in the future, so you wouldn't say, I'm going to do something. You've already done it. So close your eyes for just a moment and think of 3 things that you've accomplished in the past year. Okay. Were you able to do it? Were you able to come up with 3 things? At least one thing, right? So I'm thinking that a lot of you thought of an accomplishment at work. Something to do with your job. Maybe you got a raise or a promotion. Maybe you got a new job. Maybe some of you thought about a trip that you took to a place that you've never been before, or to one of your favorite places that you go all the time. And 1 or 2 of you thought about a project around your home that's you've needed to get done for a while and you finally finished it, maybe a bathroom or a kitchen. But how many of you won the lottery? Okay. All right, how many of you wrote the story of your life, had it made into a movie, got cast as yourself, and won an Oscar? I'm assuming not many. And I have one question for you. Why not? I mean, the only parameter that I gave you was that we time traveled into the future. I mean, with that as the basis of our experiment, it seems like a lot more would be possible. See, I think that's part of the problem. And I tell you what, I'm going to give us an opportunity to time travel again in just a moment. But let me ask you one more question. Of the things that you did accomplish, you lost the weight, got the job, finished that bathroom, did you ask yourself, should I accomplish this? Did it align with your values? Did it help you realize your true self? See, that's the problem when we start to imagine, what if? We tend to stop at the can I, is it possible part. That just stops us in our tracks. And I think that when we do a what if, we should actually take a step further down the what if chain, from what if to can I, is it possible, to the much deeper question of should I. As an improviser, when I get on stage and someone gives us a suggestion of a what if, like time travel, I immediately look to create a brand new reality, right? I go from what if to, if that's true, then what else is true? What else is possible in a world where you can time travel? But in the real world, we tend not to do that. We stop at the can I, the is it possible, and all of a sudden we get very tactical. And generally, that is where we stop. And that is the risk of if. Stopping at the can I, is it or is it not possible, instead of the should I. Is this right for me to do? So I came up with a framework that helps me make should I decisions. But in order to really use it, we gotta really understand the word if. What is if? For such a tiny word, it has enormous power. If is the hinge on which all of our decisions swing. It's a hypothetical on the condition of or the supposition that. But if you think about it, if is actually a real time machine because it asks you to consider what could possibly happen in the future. Actually, it asks you to consider all of the possible futures on all of the timelines. That's a huge job for such a little word. If. What if? And when we think about that word, we need to think about where it takes us. Like, think about all the moments in history that were shaped by the word if. What if the Wright brothers never left their bicycle shop and stayed on the ground? What if Rosa Parks gave up her seat and moved to the back of the bus? What if Dr. Fleming never went on vacation? Would he have come home to find the mold on the dishes that led to the creation of modern day penicillin? No, he wouldn't have. So if is at the heart of innovation and social change because those people ask themselves, should I? Should I stay true to who I am? And they said yes. They stayed true to their values. Should I is at the core of our everyday choices. And just like that time travel experiment that we just performed, we face countless should I's every day. Should I take that job? Should I speak up at this meeting? Should I have that cold pizza for breakfast? Spoiler alert, the answer to the last one is yes. It's just always yes. Rudyard Kipling, in his famous poem titled If, presents if as an introspection. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or if lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hate, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. See, I think Kipling has the right idea. He poses if as a question about our integrity. He asks us to consider not just the can I do a thing, but should I do a thing? And when we're talking about our integrity, we're talking about the core of who we are. And that's the meat of the should I part of if. It's our compass, right, giving us direction. Should I go back to school and finish my degree, or just keep learning as I go? Should I ask that special someone to take our relationship to the next level? But if isn't just for the big decisions, right? It's for the little ones too. Should I call my old friend? Should I have that third slice of cake? Should I start a new hobby? Should I quit my job and open up that clay pottery kiln / muffin top bakery and call it Kilned It with Muffins? And all of these big and little if decisions add up to what becomes our life. So how do we move an if from a can I to a should I? Now, earlier I mentioned that I'm an improviser. And when Joyce Sloan, the executive producer of The Second City, offered me a job, I asked my dad what I should do. Because if I took the job, it would mean an 85% pay cut. My dad said, I know what you want to do. And we're going to support you no matter what you decide to do. I just want to make sure that you do what you should do in order to become who you want to become. Dads, am I right? So what was I going to do? Do I take the job? Do I not take the job? Should I take it? Should I not take it? So I knew what I had to do. I had to listen. That was the first thing. I had to listen to the part of me that I knew was going to give me the most unerringly true vision of myself. And it wasn't my dad's voice. It wasn't my head or my heart, because honestly, those are fooled pretty easily. No, I had to listen to my stomach. Because my stomach would bother me incessantly until I did what I must do. And this decision was giving me a pit the size of Gibraltar. If something scares you, do that. The next step I had to take was I had to explore the possibilities. This is the fun part of IF, when you get to think of all the possible things, right? What if I'm good? What if I'm not? What if I become famous? What if I don't? What if I become addicted to alcohol and drugs and die at 33? I wouldn't be the first. I wouldn't even be the second. Now that I'd explored the unknown, I moved on to the next step. I had to act. I had to take action. Because whether I do or I don't, should I, shouldn't I, it kind of doesn't matter. Because no matter what, neither choice is going to be perfect. And that is the worst part of an if. The illusion of perfection. Because ain't nothing perfect. Finally, I moved on to the last step. I had to invest my passion. I had to cut the lines, burn the boats, and use my passion as the fuel to do what I knew I had to do. Listen to my stomach, explore the possibilities, take action with passion. Listen, explore, act passionately. So I took the leap and accepted the job. So let's go back to the time travel experiment again. I'm going to set the time dial to 1 year in the future. And I want you to think about at least one thing that you accomplished. But this time, as you stand on the edge of your if cliff, ask yourself, should I accomplish that? And then remember to leap before you look, because life is full of if. Thank you.